Hey everybody, welcome to Grace with Paul Gray. Most of you in the United States know the iconic slogan, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." That was dreamt up by the advertising agency Young and Rubicon over 40 years ago. It was meant to promote the United Negro College Fund scholarship program for black students, and it was successful, raised a lot of money. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Is that statement true? No. So many times we hear something over and over again, we never question it, we never research it, we never really think it through. Let's define terrible. Terrible is extremely or distressingly bad or serious, as in a terrible crime. Synonyms are dreadful, awful, appalling, horrific, horrifying, horrible, horrendous, atrocious, abominable, deplorable, egregious, abhorrent, frightful, shocking, hideous, ghastly, grim, dire, unspeakable, gruesome, monstrous, sickening, heinous, and vile. And there are more. So knowing the definition, what's wrong with the phrase, "a mind is a terrible thing to waste"? Well, terrible is an adjective. An adjective refers to a noun. The noun is mind. The mind is not terrible. It's wonderful. It's a terrible thing to waste a mind, but the mind is not a terrible thing. All right, how about this saying? It would be a shame, as if it would be a shame for that guy to never play football again because of his recently diagnosed heart condition. Do you know what shame means? It's a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Synonyms are humiliation, mortification, chagrin, ignominy, embarrassment, indignity, and discomfort. Those definitions and synonyms don't fit with it being a shame that somebody can't play football because they've been diagnosed with an enlarged heart. Well, what difference does this make? Usually not a lot in everyday life because we tend to know what people mean by those things. However, when we're talking about God, I've come to realize it's very important that we think about the things we just casually say and never think about. Things we never think through, never take the trouble to research, never look to see what the meaning of words actually are, never look to see what the disciples and the people who knew Jesus best and the early leaders of the church actually thought about God. A friend of mine, who is a Christian and very involved in his church, recently said to me something to the effect of, "It would be a terrible shame if God let someone like that into heaven. I don't think that person's mother could even love them, let alone God. That would be a terrible waste of love." Would it? People say things like that in church settings a lot. Pastors say that. Think about that now. If God has if God has an inexhaustible supply of unconditional love that God could give to anyone and everyone, there's no limit to how much he has, no length, no depth, no width, nor height of it. Wouldn't it be a terrible shame to withhold it? Remember what terrible means? Dreadful, awful, appalling, horrific, all those things. If God has unconditional love to give, and he did withhold it, in my opinion, that would be a shame. The good news, the truth is, God never withholds his unconditional love from anyone. There's nothing terrible or shameful about God, ever. There was nothing terrible or shameful at all about Jesus. And he's just like the Father. They are one, and they live in us. And they want to love other people in our lives unconditionally, as us and through us. Christ in you, the hope of glory, wants to show his glory, his grace to the people in your life. And he does that as you. In my opinion, it would be a terrible shame for us not to let Christ in us love other people when we have the capacity to do so. Now, I want to make it clear that if we waste the capacity to give people unconditional love, God's not mad at us. He doesn't condemn us. He doesn't hold us accountable for those things. He doesn't withhold his unconditional love from us for doing those things. He doesn't shame us, nor does he want us to treat other people badly whom we see apparently not giving unconditional love. Having said that, I do believe, in a sense, it's a terrible waste for us to not love other people unconditionally. We have total unconditional love from God. And Jesus gave us a new commandment that supersedes all the others. He says, love others as I've loved you. And he goes on to say, that's how people will know that you guys are my followers, my disciples. It's really a sobering thought to ask ourselves, to ask the church, maybe that we're part of, if we are known for loving unconditionally or for the, quote, terrible shame, unquote, of withholding unconditional love and judging and condemning and shaming and excluding people. Something I have to ask myself, and I think we all should ask ourselves. The rest of the week, we're going to look at some other good things, like unconditional love, that we won't want to waste. Once we see that we can help others by lavishing good things on them, and in the process we get blessed as well, and God then resupplies us over and over again with an even greater supply of those things to give, we'll want to give them more and more and more. Stay tuned. We'll talk some more tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.